State of the Union with Candy Coley, CNN Sunday Morning, 9 Eastern.
You know, Obamacare, for all of it, what it wanted to do, it didn't touch the fact that basically they pay to non-existent entities in the tens of billions of dollars every year. That's got to be changed.
Now, I noticed you just used the word Obamacare. That's not exactly a nonpartisan look at what the health reform is. That's what partisans call it when they want to attack it. They call it Obamacare.
Ed, in all fairness, people always call everything reform when they want you to think it's reform. The health care bill, clearly, when it became law, was about expanding Medicaid, mandates that have been at least tentatively ruled unconstitutional, and a big growth in government, and the reform was extremely light or non-existent. So, you know, as Republicans, our goal is to repeal what was done on a partisan basis, come back and do on a bipartisan basis real reform. And my committee, which has the dominant amount of oversight historically, needs to make the case for where that waste, fraud, and abuse is, where government is part of the problem, where government can be part of the solution.
I've been reading a lot of the profiles the big newspapers have been doing as you get ready to take the gavel, and you've been talking about bipartisanship, working with Democrats on your panel, but that's not the approach you took right before the election. You went on Rush Limbaugh's radio program. Let's listen to that.
It's going to be acrimonious. There's no question. He has been one of the most corrupt presidents in modern times.
You have since said you regret saying that, but after calling him one of the most...
I corrected what I meant to say, you know, on live radio with Rush going back and forth. And by the way, that was because Rush had me on to answer the question about coming together, having compromise. He didn't like the compromise word when I said we're going to agree to disagree, and then we're going to find the kind of common ground, the kind of compromise that makes and gets things done. In saying that this is one of the most corrupt administrations, which is what I meant to say there, when you hand out $1 trillion in TARP just before this president came in, most of it unspent, $1 trillion nearly in stimulus that this president asked for, plus this huge expansion in health care and government, it has a corrupting effect. When I look at waste, fraud, and abuse in the bureaucracy and in the government, this is like steroids to pump up the muscles of waste.
Well, but first of all, on TARP, that was before the Obama administration. That was pushed through by the Bush administration. So how could you call the Obama administration one of the most corrupt ever if the Bush administration pushed TARP through?
I wasn't talking about TARP legislation. But
you just said now that that's what you meant.
What I said was the administration got this money. That money, trillions of dollars of extra money that were basically used like presidential earmarks, handing them out, deciding what to do with General Motors and Chrysler, who lives, who dies, what union gets the benefit. All of that would not have been possible if Congress had done its job. If we'd said, Mr. President, in the case of President Bush, what is it you need? Tell us blow by blow, dollar by dollar, and we will give you the money on a case-by-case basis. Instead, what happened is we gave President Bush, and President Obama inherited $800 billion worth of walking around money with no guidelines, so that what was supposed to help financial institutions ultimately bailed out car manufacturers.
Okay, but specifically, you also went after President Obama in the Joe Sestak case in Pennsylvania, and you called it Obama's Watergate, and you said it was an impeachable offense. So I know you seem to be backpedaling now and saying you're not going after it. But why did you call it an impeachable offense?
Just so you understand, you're misquoting. And it's very important that we get it right here.
We found the quotes, and you specifically...
What you'll find is that I quoted Dick Morris.
Right, that's
who
correct.
had
in
said,
an email, you said...
Who had said it was an impeachable event. Okay.
And an email you put out said it was Obama's Watergate.
Okay, so let's not compare the two.
Well, but Watergate, there were impeachable offenses. Okay, but let's start.
I came on your show, but don't create a statement which has to be answered.
But you did call it Obama's Watergate. It's not a creation.
It is, in fact, an example of misconduct, in my opinion. Now, what happened throughout this process, and I've made this very clear, is we've discovered the problem's bigger than that. It's bigger than President Obama. President Bush's people said we did the same thing. Guess what? It was a criminal event under the law. A criminal event. When President Bush's people did it, and I don't know when they did it, they've just admitted that they did it. When President, when
you mean in terms of trying to get a candidate out of a race?
When you offer a position, paid or unpaid, existing statute makes it illegal to offer that job in return for affecting an election. That is something we've got to get to stop. The American people do not want ambassadorships or any other position handed out to save a party money.
So do you still believe it was Obama's Watergate, Joe Sestak case?
Once we knew, as we discovered, that it turns out that Republicans and previous administrations thought it was okay in spite of the absolute black and white letter of the law, it got bigger. It got bigger than President Obama.
So are you going to investigate the Joe Sestak case?
No, we're not. Here's the whole point.
But if it was Obama's Watergate, now you're going to walk away from it?
What we know now is we know that there's a problem in government that executive branch people think it's okay to do this. It's not okay. Do we need to get this administration to stop doing it? Do we need, if anything, to find out who it was in the Bush administration that thought it was okay to use your taxpayer dollars to affect Republican primary? It was wrong if it was done in the Bush administration. It's wrong in the Obama administration. But remember, the focus of our committee has always been, and you look at all the work I've done over the last 4 years on the Oversight Committee, it has been consistently about looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. That's the vast majority of what we do.